All right. Oh, have sound. All right. Welcome. And happy Halloween. I'm gonna check the quality of this audio this time, so I'm not hearing such a mess. So let's get started. I think it sounds okay. It's got that delay, so listening to it and then talking is a little bit difficult, even more difficult than drawing and talking. But yeah, I think we're okay. And I'm not quite sure yet if we get a quality drop once it's archived. So I know, these are just going right onto the channel publicly, the video, and I haven't edited the streams or anything. And from week to week, there's crazy sound issues. So hopefully we'll get things a little bit more regular. My biggest problem is I'm using the same equipment I use for streaming each week for other things, so that the settings and everything gets changed, depending on what it's being used for, and so the camera placement and mic placement and everything is a little bit different from week to week. So I'm going to try to standardize things and get a more reliable quality, and I hope that will work out okay. I think I've solved the battle between the microphone on this webcam and the microphone here, so hopefully that will improve the situation and make this more listenable. I know there's been a few weeks where if it's recording the audio on that webcam, it's a tinny digital artifact mess, so apologies for that. And I guess yeah, just a quick run through of what I'm using to do this. I mean, it's not any amazing setup or anything, but I have an older blue Yeti mic here that's underneath the Cintiq. So underneath the tablet is a mic, so I can talk this direction and have a nice decent audio. And then the webcam here is just a cheapy HD Logitech, not the latest greatest. So it's not 4K or anything. It's just barely HD. I think it's like even 720. So since I'm just putting it in that little window, I don't think that drop in resolution is going to make much of a difference. And yeah, so it seems to be a nice combination. So I can have that behind me, and that's just actually setting on top of my tower. And then on the table with my other monitor and the tablet is the mic for audio. And I definitely would recommend doing a separate audio, especially when you're not facing the camera. I think that's important to be able to pick up what I'm saying. So that's just yeah, basically how this is being recorded. If anybody has any recommendations on what would work or look better, yeah, just let me know either in the chat or the comments, because yeah, I would not mind at all improving this situation, either with a better camera setup or yeah, just something that sounded and looked better. But this is what we're doing right now, so hopefully it works okay. So yeah, so happy Halloween. So yeah, October 31st. So not much going on here. I think I've in previous streams talked a bit about Halloween in Japan, so I won't repeat myself. But yeah, so possibly on the loop line tonight there's going to be a bunch of foreigners in costume, and yeah, there's some Halloween activities I think at shopping malls and things for kids, but not something that there's not a lot of wearing your costumes to school or trick-or-treating in your neighborhoods here. So it's not much of a kids holiday. It's an older kids holiday, high school or university student holiday, and there's a lot of bars with Halloween themed parties and things, but yeah, but not for the kids. And everyone's a zombie. I think Halloween means zombie, so you get a lot of zombies, zombie versions of things. I've seen like zombie Mario and zombie Disney characters. That's a pretty common theme. But yeah, and that's always interesting. The different idea. So Halloween is a scary costume play, but cosplay and like, you know, wearing something to a show or a convention is a totally, you know, totally different art form. So I don't think that there's any real crossover there. I'm not sure if that's the same in the US, but yeah, so not people that cosplay are pretty serious about it, and they wouldn't rub fake blood all over anything that they were wearing just for Halloween. Okay, so I knew it would eventually happen, and it did. Before I started streaming, I actually thought of my joke. So this is one of those drawing to an already written joke. Yeah, which is, yeah, sometimes successful and sometimes not so much. So we're gonna have to see how this goes. But yeah, this will be my last Halloween cartoon. I think I've only had one or two others so far this year. So this will be a little bit of a Halloween cartoon. And let me set this over here, get this in a little bit better position. All right. Okay, so yeah, so this joke or this idea is cupcakes. And cupcakes were, I think for, you know, when I was growing up at least, the standard bring party food to school kind of default, because yeah, bringing a cake that you have to cut up in plates and everything else is a little bit messy. So yeah, individual cakes was kind of the standard default school snack. So I think I had a lot of birthday cupcakes and Halloween and Christmas cupcakes. Anytime there's a school party, you could pretty much count on, yeah, cupcakes being there. So yeah, and it's not, there's a lot of muffins in Japan, but it's not a real cupcake. Yeah, it's not a really real cupcake culture. There's a lot more of the European style, you know, small pastries and you know, torts and cheesecakes and things. So a lot of, you know, European style cake shops here, and so not so much the simple baked goods, and especially baked goods done at home. Although for Valentine's Day, I think cupcakes are a little bit popular here, because there's kind of a, for like junior high school or high school girls, there's a you know, maybe a desire to make the thing that you're going to give out on Valentine's Day to all of your favorite guys. So there's a little bit, so that's simple baking, simple and kind of portable baking. So cookies or cupcakes, I think, are a maybe a more Valentine's Day thing here, because they're a little bit more portable. And yeah, and also I guess the thing that that is a big cultural difference is the number of childhood allergies here. So there's a lot of allergies in the students, and especially younger kids. So cupcakes, you would have to be incredibly careful, and you'd have to make, you know, wheat flour free, or, you know, whatever. There's a lot of allergies, and so it might make the actually bringing cupcakes to school a little bit difficult. A little bit difficult here, so that might be why that's just not a common thing. Is you've got to watch out for a lot of, you know, nut and different wheat allergies, and yeah, that can be pretty difficult for the school to deal with and for kids to deal with. So I think they just don't do it. But yeah, that's a big difference. So the school cupcake is a I wonder if that's a dying art. I think it's just too convenient. I'm sure the American grocery stores are still full of holiday themed cupcakes. I can remember basically every holiday has a cupcake. You know, 4th of July and everything, there is a themed cupcake, because either your school or work may be needing it. So yeah, you'll you'll find that kind of stuff. So I'm sure that's still. Oh, and I guess with the big shopping club stores where you can buy, 48 instead of 12 cupcakes at a time. I'm sure those stores sell the holiday cupcakes as well. I'm just gonna kind of go through a few spooky cupcake ideas and see what I can come up with here. All right. Quick. Yeah. So here's the thing that I don't do, and you can tell very, very much in my work, but I know a lot of illustrators are constantly, flipping their work and see how distorted and how off I'm drawing that. Flipping the work to get a nice symmetry and a nice balance. And I just I don't do this, especially for this cartoon. I don't do that because if you're drawing figures and faces and things, I think that's a lot more important for nice symmetry and balance because it looks prettier. But I think the awkward look of these drawings is benefited by their kind of being off scale or asymmetrical. I think that's a nice uncomfortable look, so I don't think there's much it might get a little sterile or emphasize too much the kind of digital drawing if I kind of agonized over the symmetry of these drawings. So I don't. Yeah, but you can see that a lot of them are pretty cockeyed, so that's what I do sometimes, kind of tweak them a little bit that way just to kind of yeah, if anything looks particularly bad. I mean, bad drawing I think has its place, and I think there's a new understanding and a new appreciation of bad drawing, bad line quality, bad art. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that have a nice commercial professional line, but then there's also kind of a whole level of ugly art and bad art, and there's a lot of expression and a lot of emotion and things that you see in bad drawing and bad art, and a lot of personality or emotion that comes across. And I think you can empathize a bit more with ugly, uncomfortable drawings, and if that's if those are characters, especially if if it's animation, you can connect with that a little bit more. And I think that's something that kind of the underground comics taught us, like kind of starting in the 60s, the ugly art and the ugly drawing that was in a lot of the underground comics really taught people that you can connect a lot deeper with characters drawn in that style compared to something that's very, very cool and very clean and very commercial looking. It lacks a certain reality, and I think it has it gives you a distance when you're just admiring how beautiful or cool or well drawn art is. And if you're telling a story or trying to get across certain emotions or feelings, especially if they're awkward or more just kind of off center, I think you are better served by a more personal art style. So coming up with a few variations on cupcakes here. Yeah, so, well, that's, yeah, actually, and one of the things that was kind of on my mind that I wanted to talk about, since I don't know how much mileage I'm going to get from talking about cupcakes. One thing that I think is always on my mind and is just this new reality in doing, illustration or comics or artwork online, especially in this, digital social media kind of age, is fandom. So this was a thing that didn't even exist. I mean, I don't think much people gave it much thought before there was a lot of digital work, and before people were putting their work on the internet, and before Tumblr and DeviantArt and all of this stuff. And fandoms are an odd thing. It's a for me, my age, it's a little bit perplexing how much energy goes into certain fandoms, and I can understand. The internet kind of fosters people's admiring or obsession over certain, pop culture properties or certain characters or things that they're obsessed with. And you can meet like-minded people that have that same obsession and all that good stuff. But yeah, so expressing your love of characters or your appreciation or how into a show you are by drawing those characters, by doing images or illustrations of those characters, is a new thing, and it's weird. It for me, it has a weird origin from kind of Comic-Con, that kind of gray market that exists at Comic-Cons, where you go up to an artist, and I think in most cases you would ask him to draw the character he created or the character that he's famous for drawing. Like if he's if he did a run on a certain book and you really like his art style and you like how he portrayed that character, you would ask him to to do a sketch of that character. But it turned into, and I think with the more amateur artists or more internet artists kind of being at conventions, I think it started turning into just request your favorite character. So I want to see my favorite artist's take on my favorite character. So somebody that had like a more Archie comics style, you would ask him to draw Wonder Woman, or you would have somebody drawing kind of counter, if they had a more like a manga, Japanese influence style, asking them to draw Western comic heroes or Western cartoon characters or Disney characters in their particular style, started to have some appeal. But as far as I think companies have kind of allowed that to get pretty out of control, because I think there's a lot of people making a living on drawing characters that they've never kind of work-wise, not even like work for hire, have had anything to do with. And for me, that's a little bit strange because, of course, working professionally, I don't know what's going on with this. I know working professionally, the most of the jobs that you're going to find will be drawing other people's characters, or drawing, licensed characters, characters a company owns, properties a company owns, and so you're going to be following, model sheets and imitating other people's styles, and especially in animation and in a lot of the IP based or commercial comics, that's what you're going to be dealing with if you want to be a working artist. If you want to live off of drawing, that's going to be required. And I don't know why you would want to do that any more than you had to. I don't understand the lack of wanting your original idea, or your, not just your style or your touch, but your original ideas out there. And I don't know, I don't know where that motivation comes from to be popular drawing other people's characters in your style. It just seems like a waste of opportunity and a waste of energy that could go to getting your own thing out there. And I don't know, I'm missing a lot of that motivation. And it seems like it's something the a lot of the big companies, and they seem to be merging into bigger and bigger companies. I think Disney's going to own everything eventually, but it seems like the companies themselves have kind of been lax in dealing with that. And I think because of the internet, and more recently, there's been really negative reaction and kind of backlash to companies sending in their lawyers and going after people for drawing certain characters or doing things that way. So they've been lax and just let a lot of fandom spring up around their properties. And I guess seeing that as kind of a promotion. I mean, that does give these properties value when people are celebrating them and keeping them kind of in the popular consciousness. You know, when people are you know, interested and excited about this, and you're seeing, you know, many artists do fan art of you know, things like Overwatch or Steven Universe, or yeah, you see a lot of that. Artist takes different takes on those characters, but yeah, for me, it's hard to. I think that's a quick. I think it's a quick route to popularity. And if you're online working as a digital artist, and that's where you've always been, then I think likes and follows and you know, people, fans, your fans, fans of your work, the fastest way to growing that is to do popular characters, is, you know, do characters that are already popular, and then people will like your style as kind of a side effect or a secondary consequence of their loving Rick and Morty or Mickey Mouse or Garfield or whatever it is that you draw. I don't know if there's a big Garfield fandom out there, but yeah, so it goes away from, because of course parody and satire is kind of, you know, protected if you're drawing other people's characters, but you're giving them an edge, or you're saying something with your kind of take on those characters. I think there's something to that, but just applying your art style, your, you know, however you like to draw, to already established characters, I that seems very limited. It seems like that's just, I'm sure, you know, you can make plenty of money and get plenty of fans doing that, but that seems like you're betraying your creativity. You know, you're working as a commercial artist, not commercially. I don't know. It's an odd way to say that, but yeah, I really I don't like the that whole thing, and I think it is just people's addiction to popularity or fame, and you're going to get a lot more likes you know, drawing something that people already recognize than trying to show them an original character or an original idea, or kind of get them inside your head, or get something inside yourself out. But I've always thought that should be your main motivation. That's what you're doing, you're communicating, and I'm not sure what the communication of, you know, my style of Scooby-Doo is really gonna do for anybody. It seems a little limiting and a little cheap. But I mean, I know there's interesting stuff out there, and it's funny to see. I mean, to see the you know, kind of shoujo manga style South Park characters and stuff. I mean, there's something entertaining about that. There's definitely something. There's an odd kind of social commentary. I don't know if it's intentional, but there's an odd kind of commentary in that sort of thing. And I guess it goes along with you know, slash fiction and the things that the internet generates, the kind of fan fiction that the internet helps foster, that, you know, maybe used to only appear in zines or was a very kind of, you know, much more underground thing. Now it's much more out there, and I think that kind of fan art, fandom drawing is an extension of that. Obviously, it's, instead of fan fiction, it's fan art for people that don't write, they draw. But I don't know. I mean, I just don't know what to think about it, because then you look at, I mean, there is fan fiction that has become mainstream popular media, that, you know, people's fan fiction writing can develop actually into something, and that's where all people start. I mean, everybody starts copying. You know, when you're a kid, you're trying to draw Snoopy. You know, you're looking at Peanuts comic strips and you're trying to draw Snoopy based on that. So copying is the first way, but it shouldn't be the end goal, I think, to your creative life. I mean, it has a role. I think there's something in the education, and you know, the few times that I've done work where I'm copying other people's styles or going after their looks, you do learn a lot, and it does inform your work a lot to copy. But if you're just selling those copies, if that's, you know, if that's all you're doing is if it's not educational, it's just, you know, you develop a style and you just reproduce a lot of popular characters in that style. I don't know. I feel that that's a little bit of a betrayal of your creativity. But I could be totally off. I mean, I'm pre-digital in my thinking, so that's a big handicap, I guess. Nowadays, I don't think that's doing me any favors. So let's do some little more drawing, less talking. Let's do some little accessories for the cupcakes here. Yeah, but that's always just something that's kind of in my mind, and definitely dates me. I think anybody listening to this that's under 30 is like, what are you talking about, old man? That's the way of the world. That's how things are now. And yeah, I just think something got lost in that kind of quick run to popularity. If you are drawing somebody else's idea only because, wow, this gets me a lot of attention. Yeah, I don't know. But ultimately, if that attention leads to you, getting your own thing out there, if your popularity, you can then kind of parlay into, oh, you like my fan art? Well, you should see my real art. I think that's a great thing. I mean, I think that's a very happy effect of fan art, and hopefully that's a lot of people's motivation. I mean, that would be a wonderful thing, and then I could eat my words and shut my mouth and all of that, because hopefully a lot of people have a good head about that, and this is not my goal. This is just kind of a stepping stone. Get my name out there, get my style out there, get people looking at what I'm doing, and then start to express myself, and then start to start to take advantage of the popularity that those famous characters have gotten me. So kind of circling back to the origins of that, so talking about people drawing at conventions for people, and also the in Japan there's a really strong, I think that there's always been, ever since there's been manga, the amateur manga, the doujinshi kind of shows and books that are produced by people that are amateur artists but are drawing licensed characters. So the kind of their take on a certain character or world, or their further adventures of, and a lot of it goes into the erotic or kind of slash fiction kind of area, but and it's allowed. It's the big companies in Japan are very litigious and go after anybody like illegally duplicating or doing anything. They're very sensitive about licensing and copyright in Japan, especially with Japanese companies, but they tolerate this. They tolerate this kind of amateur copying of things, and there's a lot of original art that's done in that scene as well. But I think that thinking has kind of made its way over to the West and Europe and America. So there is that fan art, imitation style, using other people's characters to make your own work. And that's that's part of that origin, I think. And I think companies, and I think that's very forward thinking. I think companies have instead of trying to fight it, and maybe that's what happened, is their lawyers just gave up and said, yeah, this is not possible. We can't keep people from doing this. Maybe that was part of the reason for it, or they were just a little bit progressive, a little bit intelligent in their thinking of, this is what's coming, this is how it is, and not to fight it, but actually benefit from it. Benefit from the increased popularity that extra exposure, that free extra exposure generates. And I don't think anybody's getting tremendously rich doing that kind of work. So it's not a threat, the the main motivation of copyright and trademark is to prevent your brand from being diluted. If you come up with these characters, you're not going to have somebody else knocking them off and the knockoff becoming more popular than the original. So there's not as much of a risk of that, because I think always the marketing power and the money behind the original will always be stronger than anything that anyone's going to do online with it, as within a fandom or on an amateur level. So I admire that. I think that's good. That's good that we're there now. But I just get a little bit of a problem with people that just stay focused on that. So the reason this came up, the reason this is kind of in my head is Inktober is wrapping up, right? We're on the last day of Inktober. I guess I'm a day ahead, almost a day ahead. So still got 2 more days in the US, but yeah, today's the 31st here, and I've been looking at a lot of people's work through Inktober and really enjoying the insane variety. I mean, there's so many, especially with ink, there's just so many gorgeous styles and beautiful loose fluid lines and dense hatched rendered wonderful ballpoint ink drawings, and there's so much. It's really an enjoyable thing. So if you get a chance, just search that hashtag Inktober and just look at the big variety of work. So when I'm looking at people's work, I really enjoy their ink style, and then I'll just go back through their previous posts in Instagram, and right away you're hitting fan art. Right away you're seeing Elsa from Frozen or something. So I always get so disappointed. I want to, when we're going back through, once you go past their October posts and into previous things, I want to see their original images and ideas and characters, and immediately you're looking at fan art, and yeah, that just always makes me sad, just disappoints me, because I want to see into that person's. I don't want to see the shows that they watch and the comic books they read or cartoons that they watch. I don't care about that. I want to see kind of what's going on more internally with them, and what kind of things they have to say, or what kind of things they want to express. And as soon as you hit fan art, I'm just instantly like, okay, I'm done. I'm done looking. So that's just it might be just a kind of personal prejudice, or it might be a generational thing. But I saw some people's drawings that I really loved. I really loved their ink work, and then as soon as we get into their digital art, or not produced for Inktober, yeah, immediately you're jumping into fan arts and portraits of famous people and things. And I hope everybody that I'm looking at is very young and very starting up, because that is just too depressing. But yeah, so that's what kind of brought all this up, and I don't know how interesting it is for me to just ramble on about it, but yeah, it's a thing to consider. And I think when you're working, those are your stripper days. Your fan art days are the days that you made some quick easy money, some quick popularity, and then make that count. Turn that into something. Buy your mom a house, or get a new double wide trailer. Do something with that limited short-term success, and start doing your own books, your own characters, and doing something with that, because you've built up some sort of following, some sort of audience. Don't just kind of wallow in that easy popularity. That's all I'm gonna ramble on about that. I think that I might start beating a horse that is dead if I go on too long about that. I don't think I'm gonna write on this, but yeah, that's that's my little ramble about fandom. It's just kind of been in my head. All right, so the joke that that I'm drawing for, I don't think I've gotten anywhere near what I wanted to for this yet. Spooky and appetizing seem to be on opposite ends of the Halloween cupcake spectrum. So I don't want to talk about Halloween isn't the most delicious, looking holiday if you're putting fake blood and gray simulating stone frosting on cakes and things. It's not going to look very appetizing. So I just thought that was funny because it's a lot of people are charmed by the the looks and characters and things of Halloween, but I think ultimately as baked goods and things, they can look a little gross. So that was my idea for this cartoon. But I don't think any of these guys are getting that across. Yeah, because it was more the spider webs and fake blood and things that I was more interested in. So let's do the slasher chef's knife. I guess it's not really, I guess it's the chef's knife kind of often, but more often the machete. But I don't know if I can convincingly draw a machete. That you see, yeah, for the so over the Halloween kind of week's holiday, I was watching, we're going through the Friday the 13th series of movies because I was just watching a kind of a retrospective. Somebody did a kind of a review of the entire series, and it made me realize that there's a few of those movies that I didn't see, and I'd never, because I was younger when that was going on, I didn't follow things in the theater. I don't think I saw anything but maybe the very last movies in the theater, and was just amused following that plot. Following the plot line, the very thin, completely unbelievable thread that went through that series of movies. That was very funny at this time to watch what they were trying to do with that character, and the difficulty of like, okay, so how does Jason Voorhees come back in this episode? Like they had to keep resurrecting him, and it was just very enjoyable to see all those cheap, cheesy ideas, and because the horror movies have that kind of accelerated production, they want to take advantage of that kind of limited popularity window. They produce them so quickly, and so you have movies 1 or 2 years apart, very often for popular popular franchises. If something hits, they like I think you saw that with Saw, and anything that hits, or the Paranormal Activity, those kind of movies, like bang bang bang, they come out every year for a little while. And one of the things that they had done that with kind of early on was Friday the 13th. Maybe some spider webs over here. It's kind of getting lost there. The Friday the 13th movies, and yeah, it was just really amusing how they maintained that, and also the kind of hard turn that they started to go towards a more kind of general audience. I think that was maybe in the age where PG-13 was created, and they started to really want to market to a wider audience, at least down into 13-year-olds, to get the junior high school and high school students into the theater. But it was really funny to see the just that swing to just silliness, and they became campy, self-aware comedy movies towards the end, and the take and on the character each time, yeah, it was just really funny. So I think that's well worth, if you have a chance, going back through those movies. I think they're kind of hard to I think they're streaming in a lot of places, and you can rent them. I'm sure you can rent them on Amazon and stuff very easily. But that DVD set, no, sorry, not DVD, Blu-ray set. Blu-ray set that was released in 2013, I think, is that's a really nice collection, and it's a shame that that's so impossible to get anymore. I wish they would do a reissue of that, because those are fun. Those are really fun movies to look at, kind of historically. They've got so much of the 80s in them, and they get so self-referential and so self-conscious so fast in the series. I think, basically through, I don't know, maybe the fourth or the fifth movie is the only time that they're really, taking themselves very seriously, or very playing it very straight, and it just gets so goofy so fast, as far as the tone and what the characters are doing. And yeah, I was really amused by that, and not scared. I mean, the earlier movies, I think there's some actual scary, there's actually some horror in those movies, some actual kind of gruesome images, and they really lost the thread, and kind of because they always have a little bit, because they're using that point of view camera, they always have a little bit of that whodunit kind of thing. You don't know who the killer is, and once you just start associating, oh, that camera, that handheld point of view camera is always Jason. Once you start associating that too much with the movies, I think they lose their ability to play with you and trick you, and also the kind of off-camera kills. I think they started to use that as a way to lower the rating, to get if you wanted to get a PG-13 rating, or stay a light R rating, you can have all the kills off camera, and that was used very early on, I think, very effectively. To the people are disappearing, they met their grisly end, and it's only when the character discovers their body later you find out the actual result of those attacks. And that was very effective and very shocking, and it was a good way to make to have the characters just kind of losing, the surviving characters just kind of losing it, and really going crazy by the effect that had. But then later on, it just became an excuse to be very bloodless in the movies, and every kill was happening off camera for no reason, and there wasn't a lot of like going back and discovering anything, or they didn't use it very effectively. You just saw the ambulance taking away a body with a sheet over it, or it was not just not done as well. They miss the point of a lot of that stuff, and I think that's with anything, especially when they're producing it that fast, that's always a danger. But yeah, so that was I don't know how interesting that is, or how much I want to go on about that, but yeah, I was watching a bit of that, and enjoyed the little bit of nostalgia, and kind of filling in the gaps of the few movies in that series that I hadn't seen. I was just amazed, the product they were of that time. And I still remember, my best friend in grade school talking about, there's going to be 13 of these. They've told us they're going to make 13. They're going to make 13, and they only made 10. So yeah, that's a thing I always remember from growing up is, wow, they're going to make 13 of these movies. How is that possible? But yeah. So what other? Oh, okay. I can guess I can do some other pieces here. Yeah, so that was my little Halloween horror celebration. This year is a little Friday the 13th marathon. But yeah, that's just very entertaining. There were a lot of really bad ideas in those movies, and yeah, it's fun. It's fun that they exist. They're a product of that time, very much. All right, I think this will do it. I think that gets across a little bit better my original idea. Let's start coloring some of this. And yeah, like I said, I want to do like a weird gray. That's always an odd choice, a very Halloween look, but always an odd choice for cupcakes, I guess. Black is a little severe, so you get like a Halloween gray. I think I'll have to go back. This one. How about one of those purple? One of those purples. There we go. I think I've got the system sound down. Sorry if you heard that little alert. But yeah, I think the only sound, the PC sound should be off, so the only sound you should be getting is from this microphone, so hopefully won't hear any alerts and beeps coming from the computer itself. The paper, let me try this for now. Yes, Halloween cupcakes. Whoops. I'll turn off that spider web because I know that's gonna give me tons of trouble. Oh, but it has to go up here. Yeah, and I might actually do that for the spider web. Is it spooky enough? All right. You gotta love that as a the default Halloween adjective. Spooky. Spooky cupcakes. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. Oh, that's completely on the wrong layer. Okay, that's always something fun I do when I'm not paying attention. And I guess talking is one of those things that makes me not pay attention. Yeah, I put that on the wrong layer. Okay. Let's do that just for simplicity's sake. Yeah, so I'm using the no aliasing and having the resolution up really high on this, so I don't have to worry so much about the fills going wrong because the resolution on the line art itself, and there's no aliasing in it, so that helps me to be able to do stupid stuff like that where I can just fill kind of recklessly. But I guess we'll do the handle for now. Oh, and I think I mentioned a little bit about this last time, but that's a funny thing when I'm watching horror movies in October. That's a very foreign thing to be doing in Japan because their kind of ghost story and, haunted season is more August, is more the summer. Timing it with the Obon holiday, which is kind of their, I guess loosely, their Day of the Dead type holiday. And so you don't watch horror movies in the fall. It's a totally different kind of aesthetic or thinking for horror films, and so that's always funny. It's a very American thing to do. I think that's a good quality color. So I'll do a little bit on this cake. Actually, yeah, that's not going to work so well, is it? Yeah, I should have maybe yellow. It'll work better. All right. Yeah, maybe that might be okay. We'll try it this way. Oh, there we go. Once it's on the knife, then totally work. Okay. Yeah, so again, I'm trying to get a good sense of how long this stream should be and how long I should actually be spending on the drawing and streaming. I don't know, if the conversation drags or if it's that interesting to watch me making such simple little cartoons. But I guess, having it on in the background can't be the worst thing in the world. So hopefully nothing feels too long and rambling. And yeah, I'm just used to, like, other podcast stuff that I've done is a lot tighter, and we kind of edit down and make it kind of enjoyable and digestible as possible. And this is a long, rambly kind of thing, so just need to get a sense of if that's working or not. If you have any opinions, let me know. Sure. Yeah, maybe that worked okay. All right. Yeah, I think that's going to be okay. A couple more. Get my unappetizing point across. Something like that. Okay, so let's try a little bit of shadows and see if that still works for everything. Oh yeah, so I keep mentioning this because it was the subject of my Inktober. Everything I did was based on my Citizen Spaceman project. And I just wanted to mention that on the website itself, I put the first issue, just JPEGs of the first issue, to get people hopefully a little bit into the story. Yeah, so that's out there now. So I'm hoping I can get some people looking at that and kind of enjoying where that's going, just based on people seeing a month of those drawings and wondering what that's all about. Because I think a lot of the look and design of that is a little odd, and until you're kind of reading the story, it doesn't make a lot of sense visually what I'm doing. And if people are motivated to figure out what's going on instead of just giving up at the look, the odd look of the book itself, yeah, hopefully there'll be some people that'll connect to it from there. And yeah, because that's the whole point of that story, is just kind of getting that idea across. So yeah, so the first issue of Citizen Spaceman is on the website, the citizenspaceman.com. So if you are one of those people that was looking at that and wondering what's going on, then yeah, there's your chance to kind of yeah, follow through for the beginning of that story and kind of give you a little in to what's going on and what that design is all about. And the funny thing is, yeah, I did the Inktober, so kind of very loose. I was using the brush pens mostly for that, so very loose style on that drawing, and I really enjoyed that, but that's not what the book looks like at all. So the designs, there's a design of the actual book itself. It's all done in Illustrator, and it's very clean and geometric, so it's funny. It's funny to see. So all the early sketches and kind of visual work I did for that series looked like my ink drawings. It was very loose and very expressive. But the actual book itself, and I talked about it before, because kind of the necessity of doing a bilingual book, and I'm going to need to change the page layouts and things. I didn't want to be redrawing pages or, you know, flipping art or doing things that just wanted to minimize the actual labor of doing that book in a couple of different languages. So I you know, chose that cleaner kind of visual style, and so it's funny. I'm interested to see how people react to that when they come to that idea from the more loose, expressive style. It'll be funny if they are a little bit turned off by the actual final art style. I'm curious. Excuse me. But hope that wasn't too loud. All right. So we got some cupcakes and some plain cupcake paper. I don't know how accurate that is. I think there's always spooky Halloween cupcake papers, but I want this to look as least appetizing as possible, as little, not so delicious. So I think those ugly brown papers will have to do. Okay, and maybe a couple of highlights. I think that bone might look better, a little plasticky. Maybe even the knife too. A spooky Halloween cupcake. See, even I'm using that wonderful word. Okay, yeah, I think that's pretty close to what I had in mind. There we go. So maybe a little bit bigger, because I think, like I was talking before, the web version of this, it's like 640 by 400 or 600 by 480 or something. So pretty tiny. So if I do any detail that's too small, it gets lost pretty easy. A little bit more on the cupcakes, but yeah, so that's a good thing to always keep in mind, like what your sort. I mean, and that's the that's always a good thing, like what your target kind of format is. You know, kind of what you're shooting for, because it is really easy to get lost in enjoying the detail of what you're doing and focusing on you know, some nice little texture or something that nobody is ever going to see, because you were just, you know, you're kind of working at the wrong resolution, or you're not thinking about, you know, where this is ultimately going to go. And oh yeah, the one thing I was thinking might be needed to kind of get this ugliness across is a little bit of a spider. Yeah, that's always It's always funny. Is food with bugs on it as part of the Halloween look. Everybody loves bugs on their food. All right, there's a lovable plastic spider. And maybe a highlight on that as well. Yeah, there we go. Now he's plastic. All right, look at that. So my last Halloween cartoon for this season. We are. Yeah, I love that little blank expression. That always feels good when I'm finishing that. Okay, so spooky and appetizing seem to be on opposite ends of the Halloween cupcake spectrum. Let's spell check. All right. Sorry, there we go. Spooky and appetizing. There you go. Oh, so yeah, having the idea beforehand is nice. It's a nice way to kind of just focus on the drawing and have some fun or a little bit more entertaining details in the drawing. So there's some Halloween cupcakes. So spooky and appetizing seem to be on opposite ends of the Halloween cupcake spectrum. You can't be both spooky and appetizing. You're gonna do one or the other. All right, so that was that guy. And let's move on to, I don't know what, on to, what were we doing before? Oh no, yeah, we have to warm up another idea here. So let's, since this will be already in November, Halloween has left us. And that's the thing that we don't have here in Japan, is that wonderful buffer of Thanksgiving between Halloween and Christmas. So what ends up happening is November 1st, Christmas decoration. So you literally have 60 days pretty much of Christmas here, and it's pretty brutal. I really love having the the day after Thanksgiving being the Black Friday, and having the shopping season and holidays and everything start then, because to have it start November 1st is pretty brutal. And even when, and it's not even a thing here, Christmas is a very minor, much less of a holiday than in the US, and even that means a lot of Christmas music and a lot of cheesy decorations. And I think department stores and things do a nice job of seasonal decoration, but a lot of the more local shopping and smaller shops, it's all plastic, dollar store garbage Christmas decorations and displays, and it just gets depressing. And looking at that for 2 months is yeah, that'll give you a case of the holiday blues, if anything. Well, it's just really ugh, yeah, really hard to look at. But yeah, so be thankful for Thanksgiving. Don't realize how much that helps, because I think Christmas would do the same thing in the US. You know, you would be overlapping Halloween and Christmas at some point with the way they want to get people shopping as early as possible. Okay, so let's come up another idea. I didn't have a lot going on. Oh, I guess we can already move into one of my other favorite things to draw is American style pies. Yeah, that angle is not what I want. There we go. Let some pie interaction. Pies from different worlds. Some high concept stuff here. All right. Yeah, that's another uniquely Japanese thing, is their definition of pie is a little bit surprising. And they have the, I don't know if you're familiar, I just remember this from Los Angeles, the restaurant Coco's is here, and the logo and everything looks very similar to its American counterpart. But the one thing it's lacking is a huge selection of American style pies. So that's disappointing. They have, I don't know what this is, if it's a European style, like a French or a German kind of style, where pie just means something encased in kind of flaky bread. So that's their idea of pie, as opposed to, you know, a large baked pie that's cut into slices. So you don't have slices of pie quite like this here. You have these more, you know, I guess, you know, easier to eat, easier to deal with, easier to serve. So there's a lot of cakes and things that are cut into slices this way, but there's not the American idea of pie in this way, with the nice crust and the big variety. So I certainly do miss that. Wow, I think this is going to be a quick one. This just kind of popped into my head, but I was thinking about seasonal pies and missing that pumpkin pie of the fall. Yeah, I think I said before that pumpkin here is really delicious, but very different and much less associated only with the fall season. I guess, you know, it is pretty prevalent in fall along with sweet potatoes, but it is not strictly that. I think that needs to be a little lighter. Yeah, maybe. So that, yeah, that pumpkin pie feel is not quite this. And this I'm doing is apples. Yeah, that's a that's a funny kind of little cultural thing. My mother, so my wife's American mother-in-law, was here, and they baked an apple pie in Japan, and they don't have the ovens here that you have in the US, the big electric or gas ovens. got a little convection oven that sits on a counter, so it's half microwave, half convection oven, and you can't even put a half of a chicken breast in there. They're very tiny machines. And so we went to the local, and it would have been better, I'm sure, in other parts of the country. We went to our little local kind of country, or small town, Japanese grocery store, and bought apples and flour and the ingredients to make an apple pie from scratch in Japan. And the cost of that pie was insane. I think just the apples themselves ended up being close to $30 or something just absolutely ridiculous. So it was definitely one of those one-time enjoyable experiences. But as far as making apple pies regularly in Japan, it's a little cost prohibitive unless you find better sources for the ingredients. The apples we found and everything were just insanely expensive. But that's that's always funny for me to remember. That is that insanely expensive apple pie. It turned out pretty well, but wow, I don't think it tasted quite as amazing as it cost. I think the cost to taste ratio wasn't quite what it needed to be. That was some amazingly expensive pie, but educational purposes, so I guess it's okay. We can claim that under, get a educational deduction for that experience. But yeah, very funny memory of trying to simulate American things in Japan. And that's very often the case. I think anybody that's wanted to import a turkey for Thanksgiving or anything in Japan has really run into that, just how ridiculous that ends up being, and how quickly you realize you're on an island where everything is very expensive to get a hold of, and you're just stuck with what's available. You're not going to be able to get much variety. I think people that have like Mexican restaurants or things in Japan feel that very much. The quality and probably cost of the ingredients has to just be insane. A little tails. Yeah, so that's there's a pie related story. Wow, how do I keep coming up with all this? Pumpkin pie. Yeah, so there's pumpkin desserts here, but I'm not sure pie is that common. And like I said, the definition of pie here is quite different, so could be. Yeah, that's an interesting part of, I don't know if this is a whole longer topic, but Japan is an interesting museum of American companies. So in Japan, we still have Tower Records. That's still a thing here. And I think the Lawson's convenience stores don't exist in America anymore, but they have Lawson's here. And there's one more thing. I can't remember. Oh, Mr. Donut. I don't think there's Mr. Donut anymore. It's just Dunkin' Donuts in America. But, when there's mergers and bankruptcies or whatever, and American companies disappear, if they had a Japanese version, oftentimes they will continue to exist. So you have these kind of relics of American, kind of 80s retail and consumerism that only exist in Japan now. And of course, they're not the American version. Maybe the design, like the logos and colors and the things that they serve are still kind of similar, but they've been adapted, and the reason they still exist here is because they've been adapted for the Japanese market and Japanese taste. So for example, Mr. Donut serves like Chinese yomcha and the curry pan, and sausage rolls and things for the lunch crowd that they probably never would have done in the US, as far as trying to make Mr. Donut a destination for people that want a quick lunch, like coffee and lunch. So they adapt the menu to a Japanese taste and try to make it fit the needs of the Japanese market much more. So they're a little bit different. Sorry. They are still recognizable, but like Tower Records is 50% J-pop, and so it's it cosmetically looks similar, but it's very much a Japanese beast, and it's just funny. It's funny for those things that are long gone to kind of linger here in this kind of strange corporate cryo sleep. I think there's just something funny about that. So I can have a lot of 80s nostalgia for the place, the convenience store I bought my first comic book at, and things like that, because of those brands still existing in Japan. And yeah, I don't think it works quite the same in talking about nostalgia. I think I've gone on about that before, but the kind of 80s nostalgia that America is mining right now, it doesn't exist in the same way here. Of course, the 80s is the style is a recognizable kind of former style, but Japan has this kind of constant nostalgia. Like there's because it's got a longer history and really big pop culture, they never let go of nostalgia for various times. And I don't think, maybe fashion will lean more one way or another, or like popular music will imitate trends, older styles through different trends, kind of on and off. But it seems like nostalgia is just a constant part of everybody's life. When you watch television shows and things, it's always remembering old pop singers and old songs and music, and maybe because of that kind of bubble time, kind of the 80s and early 90s in Japan, was that Japan's just way too rich, way too fast, way too much age, similar to kind of what it was doing in America, and they had the kind of economic deflation and things just changing, where it wasn't an endless investment, and they weren't going to buy the Empire State Building again, and all of those things that kind of happened in the 80s for Japan, and kids living a much more wealthy, kind of glamorous 80s life just kind of went away. But there's not so much a nostalgia specifically for that, but there's just a constant nostalgia for each generation has kind of served their own nostalgia that they want to see and things that they're interested in here in a very unique way. And I think people can even have nostalgia for a time that they didn't even live in. And I think part of that is kind of a nationalism or a patriotism or something, or just admiring their parents or their grandparents' generation or something. It's connected to that in some way. But yeah, I've seen some kind of interesting nostalgia for times that people didn't even exist in. I guess the same way that zoot suits or things becoming popular in the US, the kids that are dressing in certain ways aren't imitating a time that they lived in. It's just kind of a romanticized version of things. But there's a lot of that here. There's a lot of kind of built-in constant nostalgia that is very very interesting, and works a little bit differently. Oh, I do want to do that. And works a little bit differently from the way it does in the US. It seems like the US targets more specifically, you know, demographics and ages, and serves things back to them, you know, very specifically, and whether or not other people are interested is not, you know, not the point. Okay, so we got some pumpkin pie actually, and we got some pumpkin pie and some apple pie. So the autumn battle royale with the yeah, I think I repeat this joke or this setup so much, but I love the kind of, you know, blank deadpan stare, and then the joke describing some, you know, vicious battle or showdown or, you know, epic rivalry that you know, just is not depicted in the art itself. That for some reason that incongruity or that juxtaposition always makes me always amuses me. So you always have these epic struggles that you know, you're not witnessing visually, and that always makes me laugh, or it's always, you know, always amuses me with this cartoon. So I do it often. Okay, I guess I just do that. Yeah, I don't want those lines, that crust line and that highlight, to overlap so much. I think that looks a little confusing, especially when it's scaled down. Okay, so what is happening here? Oh, sorry. Still got a little bit of a cough. Yeah, so this is the annual showdown between Apple and Pumpkin. Okay, the autumn. As always, the setting for the showdown between Apple and Pumpkin. Oh, okay. I think, like I mentioned before, Pumpkin. I always think of a little phrase. There's some English or something that just, you know, some little phrase that makes me laugh. So yeah, the thing that just popped into my head was pie supremacy. The showdown for pie supremacy. I gotta break this up so I can read what I wrote. Okay. The autumn was always the setting for the showdown for pie supremacy. I have to. So let's see here. Now you can watch me, head in my hand, think. I think that makes for interesting. So maybe if I just talk through this, it's a little better on the stream. Let's see. So talking. So Apple and Pumpkin showdown. I like inevitable too. I think inevitable. Inevitable showdown. All right. I don't know why it's inevitable. A funny thing for it to be. Inevitable showdown for pie supremacy. Between apple and pumpkin reached its climax every. Well, that's way too wordy. Okay, yeah, that's getting way too wordy. Okay. Autumn brought inevitable showdown for pie supremacy between apple and pumpkin. Yeah, so I think in one of the earliest streams I talked about this, and I shouldn't keep referencing other things. I think maybe each one of these should be self-contained. I'm not making this cartoon for you. I think I'm making it for me. So I'm only done with it. You know, I only think I've finished something or completed something when I've made myself laugh. So this is another one of those. So autumn brought the inevitable showdown for pie supremacy between apple and pumpkin. And again, like I think I've said before, every time I find something that I think is funny, or I finish a gag on one of these cartoons, it's so familiar that I think I've already written it like 10 times. And I'm not sure what that is. I'm not sure what creates that feeling, but it just feels so familiar. Like, how many times have I said this? Have I drawn this exact same thing? Have I done this exact same setting? Because once you're, more than 1,000 in on these silly ideas, it's yeah, it gets to be like that. So this is a pie battle. Okay, so autumn brought the inevitable showdown for pie supremacy between apple and pumpkin. I think that works. And what in the world happened to my? Are you kidding me? Yeah, this is another touch screen event here. So I think we're just gonna have to remember my spooky and delicious from last time. I've got some weird thing. Yeah, so again, I will complain about this Windows Ink workspace and how utterly incompatible it is with a Cintiq tablet. I'm sure I just have to go in and shut it down or strip it out or do whatever I need to do, but I'm not using a Surface. I'm using Windows 10 on a PC, and I want to use, and I'm just getting cranky. Now I want to use the tablet settings, the Wacom settings, the touch sensitivity for this tablet within Photoshop and not with my Windows desktop or anything else. And that ink space thing just keeps messing with it. I don't have the same control. I'm getting touch. Say I'm getting touch controls when I don't want touch controls. It's not doing any palm, what is that called, non-recognition of my hand. So I do certain things that I don't want to do. Yeah, it's just I want to use the Wacom built-in functions and control it that way, but Windows is kind of in a constant fight with that. So I end up with some odd states in Photoshop where I get these little odd things now. So now I can't, my tabs are gone for Windows. My tabs are gone because of some palm swipe that registered, and it's just ridiculous. I think it's just stupid. They're building their software to support only their hardware, and they don't realize that everybody else has to function on top of this mess. So that is I'm not gonna keep going on and on about that, but that is a frustration. And creatively, when those things get in your way and kind of I don't want to have to take time to sort out this software issue when it comes to, like, you know, doing my cartoon or streaming or whatever. And when those things get in the way, it's just ridiculous. It just makes you realize how much working digitally is just very cumbersome and very restrictive, and has huge limitations. And yeah, enough of that. But yes, so we have a battle of pies and some spooky cupcakes. So thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and yeah, I'll put some links in the information once this goes into the channel for Citizen Spaceman, and then abusecartoons.com. Always please check that out, and look on Twitter for that if you're not already, and on my Instagram we'll have some a little bit of everything. So that's Jeremy Lambros, at Jeremy Lambros, and the yeah, for Twitter and Instagram, and there's even a Facebook page for Abuse Cartoons, so just give that a search. And yeah, thanks again, and see you next week. Goodbye.